Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a long time, but I haven't been able to record because, as you guys know, I have 3 kids now and I'm very busy doing that. Right now I'm filming just because they're asleep. I'm washing and I'm cutting vegetables to make some soup. So I have some time to talk. I wanted to tell you guys kind of why I didn't film my children's birth, my child's birth, Fabian's birth. I didn't film it because I had planned to film the whole thing and show you guys the raw footage and da-da-da, because I was like, I'm gonna have the epidural. Joke was on me. I got the epidural and it didn't work. Okay, so what had happened of course you guys know that I got there and I was already having contractions, but they weren't consistent. They weren't consistent enough for me to stay, but I was dilated to, I think, a 3 or a 4, which usually last time that I went, I was dilated to a 3 and they kept me. But since my contractions weren't constant, that's what they were worried about. They kept coming, kept going, kept coming, kept going. So they originally thought that I was dehydrated. Turns out I wasn't. I wasn't doing it. My body wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing. So they kept me and they started checking on me, and they found out that I might need a blood transfusion or iron transfusion because I was really anemic at the time. So they admitted me and stuff, and I think they put Pitocin. They put Pitocin so they could help me get contractions, get them constantly. And that was helping. That was making my contractions more constant. But I wasn't dilating as quick as I should have been. So whenever they found that out, they were like, okay, so we need to see how much you progress. So I got there, at 12, I was admitted, and by the time everything was going and my labor was progressing, it was 2, 3, even 4 o'clock in the morning. By 4, I think I was at a 5, but I kept going that night, right? And then I think I was at a 5 when Fernando got a text message. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. Got a text message that my dad had fallen off of the ladder, off of the roof of the house. It was raining. He went to go check a leak and he fell off. And when he fell off, he broke his leg, he broke his knee, he shattered his kneecap, he broke his, I don't know what it's called, the long bone on your leg. He broke it in 3 pieces or 2 pieces. So I don't know if that stressed me out or I don't know what was happening, but I stopped dilating. I was the furthest I got without an epidural. No, I got the epidural. The furthest I got though was an 8. And my dad was, while this was happening, my dad was in the same hospital as me. The only difference was I was having a baby. He was getting sent out to Austin to get his leg fixed. And they didn't want to tell me because obviously I was giving birth. But they ended up telling me. And well, everything was going good. My dad got sent to Austin from there to get surgery right away. And then I guess an hour passed. I was still not dilating. And I still had, at this point, I had the epidural already. So the doctor came in, he checked me again. He was like, okay, you're at a 9. See if you progress. And then I was progressing. And then, what else? By this time, it was like, what? 1, I think, because I had him really late. I think I lasted, what, like almost a whole day? Because I had him like at, what? I had him like at 4, I think. I'm not sure, but I had him really late. I had him really late to where by the time I started, the doctor was like, okay, well, let's start pushing. By the time the doctor told me to start pushing, the epidural had worn off. So I was in so much pain. I was like, no, like it hurts so bad. They were like, okay, like you're too far to where we can't give you any more epidural. We can't fix your epidural. We can't give you anything for pain. Or actually, they did offer it, and I was like, okay, give me that thing for pain, and then if it helps, we won't do the epidural. And by the time I said yes, it was too late. So I didn't end up getting the epidural, and they were telling me to practice push because that pain that I was having throughout the pregnancy, it was the baby being like stuck on my pelvic bone, I think it was. So he was stuck there already. So whenever I was pushing, he was still stuck. And the doctor kept telling me, well, let's practice pushing, and everything, like my body was working, everything was working, I was pushing fine, but the baby was stuck. So it was the position the baby was in. And so after that, the doctor was like, okay, well, let's stop pushing, and you know, if you can't get this baby to move off of that position or get closer to, well, down there, we're gonna have to do a C-section because you've already been in labor for so long, and I don't think he's gonna move. So the doctor leaves, and I'm there with my nurse. I'm like crying so bad because I'm in so much pain. And then the nurse is like, okay, we have to get this baby like out. We have to get this baby out. And I kept pushing and pushing, and nothing was happening. So much that the nurse was like, okay, this isn't happening. And the doctor came back in. The nurse told him that like my body wasn't doing it. He wasn't like going down. So he was about to walk out when I'm like, I'm not getting a C-section, not after like trying to like push this baby out and having so much pain. I'm not gonna go get a C-section. So what happens is I just start pushing. I don't know why, but I was like, this is not happening. So I myself start pushing without the nurse, without the doctor, and somehow the baby starts coming out. Like his head is like coming out. Fernando is like, okay, I can see the head. And the nurse comes back, and the doctor's like, stop pushing. I'm like, I cannot stop pushing. And literally, I cannot tell you how fast that guy ran. He sprinted to get his like gear on, his gloves. Literally, he couldn't even put on his suit, nothing. He was wearing gloves. He got his gloves on just in time to like catch the baby. And whenever he caught the baby, Fernando, it was so said that it was just like a pop. Like they broke my water, but I don't know why, but he just exploded out. Fernando said that, like, this is probably TMI, that it just got all over his boob. And now, like, pee, or, you know, it's the liquid from the sac where the baby was. So whenever he came out, it was so painful. So painful. I've never felt this pain before. And I think they said that whenever I had my stones, but it was way worse than my stones. Like, it was so bad. Like, I don't know why people do this naturally. I don't know if it's just my pain tolerance is not very high. Like, it just hurt. But it did hurt, I think, the most because I did rip. Instead of ripping outside, I ripped inside because the baby was just not budging. My outsides were fine, but the inside is what ripped. But he came out perfectly fine. He was a huge baby. He was 8 pounds 10 ounces. His name is Fabian. He was very long. What else can I tell you about him? He's such a sweet baby. So, risueño. I don't know if you guys know what that means, but it just means that, like, they're very, they laugh a lot. He's a very happy baby. He doesn't cry. He doesn't ever cry. He just cries whenever he's pooped, peed, and hungry. That's it, literally. You just feed him and he's fine. He's just chilling. He's 2 months. And my kids are doing very, very well with him. Rewind. I also didn't record right away. I didn't record when my kids met my son. I didn't record when my dad saw my son. I didn't record a lot of things because just so much happened during that time. My brother, right when I gave birth, the day I got released out of the hospital, my cousin called me and she's like, okay, well, we left because Vladimir is sick and we don't know what he has, so we need to leave. And they're from Arizona, so they were out of town. So whenever I got out of the hospital, I got the call that same day, I think, or the day after, that he tested positive for COVID. So what that meant is that my kids were exposed, my brothers were exposed, everyone was exposed to COVID, and he didn't bring it from over there because he got tested before. He was here for, I think, like 4 or 5 days, so he had to have caught it here because he wasn't feeling sick any of the days except the last day that he was here. They didn't leave because my dad fell. Whenever she called me, everyone went to go get tested. My brothers were feeling sick, so they got tested like real quick. They got a positive. My 2 brothers got positive, 2 older brothers, and the rest of the family tested negative, but they still had to quarantine. And since I had just given birth, I got my kids back from my sister who had been taking care of them, and so they were exposed. And now since they were exposed, I was exposed. So I had a newborn with 2 exposed kids to COVID. My parents were exposed to COVID. My dad had fallen. Everything happened within that time span where I couldn't have a lot of help because my parents were at the hospital in and out. My brothers were supposed to be quarantined. My suegra and my sister-in-law, they actually did come a lot over to help me. It was just a very hard time. So whenever that did happen, I was so sad. I was so sad that I couldn't have my parents. Like, my dad didn't meet Fabian until a week after. And I couldn't record that because I was bawling. I hadn't seen my dad since the accident. Since he was in the hospital. I think he was in the hospital for a week. For a week and a half, I think. So I lied. I didn't see him for a week and a half. And even after, I think I tried to stay away, but it was so sad. So sad. And they were quarantining in my dad's house. So it was just harder to go over, and like I couldn't expose my son. It was just very, very hard. But with God's help, everything worked out, and they didn't end up having COVID. My brothers are the only ones that had COVID. My sister didn't get it. My mom didn't get it. My dad didn't get it. My other little brothers didn't. So I'm just glad that we got through it, And only God knows when the time for you to go is. I'm so grateful. I can't put it into any words. I'm so grateful for everyone and that everyone's okay. And I know that you guys wanted more, but this is all I can give you. Explaining why. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys come back, and I'll see you in my next video.